Hola, estudiantes. So I thought I would record a short lesson. I should have been doing this throughout the semester. But one thing is, I think, why do I want to say what's already in the book? But I want to actually put out short, my short responses to the material in the book, to the topic we're going over. And I definitely do not want to come across as preaching my views as correct. What I want to do is just respond and get y'all to think a little bit. And what's important is that you develop your own personal response, because as you seek for success in life, what is important is that you don't seek to meet someone else's ideas about that success, but that you clearly develop your own ideas and figure out what you need to do to reach your goals in that area that hopefully match with your values, which is something that is talked about in this module in the textbook. Looking at what your values are, and we might already think, well, I already know my values, but I think if we have a list of them and we have to maybe rank them or really write down what they are and explain it, it can help us to get to know ourselves and ask ourselves if our decisions are reflecting those values. So, this module is about the career, and I put in my slideshow, I named it Creating a Career. And why do I call it Creating a Career instead of Finding a Career? So, finding a career is sounds like it's already made for you and you just find the correct one. And creating it gives you more agency. Is this possible? Can we create our own career? So that's just a question. And like I said, I just don't want to rehash what is in this textbook and already given to you, because you can look at that. So I am looking at a textbook that I had to, well, I didn't have to. It was recommended to us for my student success course at SFA. That was probably around 1995 when I took that, so it's a while ago. This is obviously, well, not obviously, but it's a different edition, updated edition. So the book is called This Book Is Not Required. And with that name, I don't think I read much of it, but I came back to it later when I was going to teach student success, and I thought, oh my goodness, I definitely should have read it. I think it's pretty amazing. But it's interesting because it has you question a lot of the educational system and career system or way of thinking and all of this, which is interesting because we're trying to help you learn how to succeed in the educational system and to find a career in our system that already exists. But at the same time, this book questions some of the values that are often found inside of those systems. So it's interesting. How are you going to question it and still fit into it and find success? But I think that is up to each of us individually. And regardless of our choices, that it's important for us to always question things and to continue really reevaluate our choices and yes, all of that. So maybe hopefully this makes some kind of sense, but it's just to really open up a discussion. So at the beginning of this chapter, it's chapter 17 in this book. Oh, the book is written by Inge, Bernard McGrain, John Gunderson, Terry L. Anderson, and Terry L. Anderson. And sorry, I thought I lost my bookmark maybe. Okay, so quoting from the beginning of chapter 17, the question is the career. friend or foe. And he quotes from Maccoby, which I'll write out all of the references from at the end of the slideshow. He says, from the moment a person starts treating his life as a career, worry is his constant companion. And that's from page 202 in Maccoby. And quoting again, he writes, in this chapter, I would like to explain this life pattern and compare it with a different older pattern that is generally dying out in our modern world, but that is still available to those who wish to choose it, that of the artisan. And he says, so to kind of summarize, the question is if you want to be a careerist or an artist. And he basically says that the difference doesn't lie in the type of work you do, but in how you approach it. So we would think of as an artisan as maybe someone who's in theater, creative arts, painter, but not a business person or maybe a doctor. But he said you can choose careerist or artist in any field. It's just how you approach your work and how you make it a part of your life. So when he quotes from, the quote was from Michael Maccoby's 1976, The Gamesman. It says it is a study of high-ranking executives. Quote, in it, Maccoby shows how career comes to dominate every other aspect of life. Most damning, he found that the longer a man was in a high executive position, the more he hardened his heart. Such men became incapable of ordinary morality. There is no product they will not make if making it would help their career. There is no harm to the community from which they will shrink. Values of personal loyalty, love of family, respect for the world of nature all go down the drain. What is left is an individual who is frequently very effective and brilliant at work, but who has lost his or her way, in the sense that the only end this person serves is the end of self-glorification. As old age approaches, such people frequently feel an aching emptiness. They have gotten everything they went after, yet peace of mind, genuine self-respect, and loving relationships with others elude them. At retirement, they are likely to suffer intense feelings of deprivation. Away from their luxurious boardrooms and lecture halls and constantly ringing telephones, they feel themselves to be nothing. Because of their very success and power, they have not learned humility. Now, as physical deterioration and death confront them, they are aghast. They cannot accept the inevitable. End of quote. So I don't want to preach this to you. This is what this author is explaining, but I want you to think about it. Do you think it's true? Is there a way to avoid this, even if you do go into this kind of career, if you want to be a high-ranking executive? Or do you think that this is not true? Let me see. Okay. Okay, then, so the question is whether you are looking for power or whether you are looking to give good service. Whether are you looking for intrinsic or extrinsic rewards? And we might ask, what are we left with when we no longer work in the field we dedicated ourselves to? What will we take with us? Quoting again from page 250 in This Book Is Not Required, quote, whereas the careerist worships power and gathers up as much of it as he or she can, the artisan delights in rendering good service. This quality was beautifully expressed by the craftsmen who built the medieval cathedrals of Europe. Their rich, detailed wood and stone carvings decorated even areas on ceilings and behind pillars, which no human worshiper would ever see. For the craftsman, it was enough that God would see it. Okay, so this has a religious it's coming from a religious perspective with these craftsmen, which I heard about this on another radio program recently, that it wasn't just for people, the art, but for God. But even if you don't hold these religious views, you can see how sometimes it ends up that we aren't even doing things for people on a human level anymore. For um, we're working for recognition, and a lot of times that recognition first comes in the form of money, and obviously we all need that to survive. But the question is, at what point we will give up that kind of recognition to do what we value, that we see is valuable, instead of what someone else tells us is valuable in the form of money. And I'm not saying that we would make the choice to give up a salary and work for free, because obviously that's not how society works. But to think about that, I think that's why the book is trying to get you to think about your values. Because if your desired career or your job doesn't support your values, that can bring in a lot of conflicts. And I also think to ask ourselves what we can do, what we do have control over. So, okay, so I'll read one more part. Quote, "Artisans are people who love their work for its own sake. Their rewards are intrinsic rather than extrinsic. That is, the process of work is directly rewarding to them. They care very little for higher salaries or more prestigious positions. They may even refuse these if it would change the nature of their work. You can find the parallel in your schoolwork. The intrinsic reward comes to you when you just plain enjoy an assigned book or find yourself truly fascinated by a research project. The extrinsic reward is the grade. The two types of rewards compete for your attention. If you care too much about the grade, you may be too tense to ever feel intrinsic pleasure from your studies. If, on the other hand, you love doing a piece of work, it may not matter nearly as much as to you how your professor ranks it. Intrinsic rewards are a sort of pay-as-you-go proposition. The fun is in the process. Focusing on extrinsic rewards means focusing only at the point in the very end when you collect your grade, or later, your money or promotion. This empties out the process and concentrates all the meaning at a point outside the process. So it would be illogical to think we're going to only care about intrinsic rewards, because we need money, we need to take care of ourselves, we need to take care of our families. So we're looking for that. But I think that this connects with me because I think it's a balance. So if in my career I need to go back for school, which is actually happening to me right now, I am doing that, and I kind of felt forced into it. But now I'm finding that thankfully I found the right school, the right program, and it's really connecting with me, and I can use it as a person instead of just to jump through I mean, it wouldn't be just jumping through a hoop, but that can be the mindset. I just have to do this to keep this job. I just have to do this to get the pay. Whereas if it really connects to you, I think in the end, it will take you farther as a person. And so that's important to me. And also, I wrote an OER for the Spanish courses here. Well, I could have applied for a grant. I decided not to because in the fine print, okay, I can't remember how many thousands of dollars I could have maybe gotten. Who knows if I would have been awarded the grant? But in this fine print, it took away all ownership. And I don't want ownership because this is an OER. So it's open access to everyone free of charge. So it wasn't that, but it was almost like the state was taking ownership and they said they could um, tell me at any time to stop working on this and to not use it in my courses and that kind of thing. Well, to me, that defeats the underlying value of leaving something open and accessible to the public. How can they take that away in order to give me money? So I didn't apply for it, and I did it on during the summers without pay. I just thought that it was a valuable thing to do, and I was doing it for my students and for the public in general. And I was hoping that I would somehow be rewarded at some point if I did the actions that matched my values. Now, of course, in my situation, I had a 9-month salary. I didn't need more money, so I could make that decision. So that's what I'm talking about of balance. Of course, we have to focus to a certain extent at um, on material things, on finances, on salary, on keeping a job to take care of ourselves and take care of our communities and our families. But if we can keep our values in mind at the same time, at sometimes we might give up those exterior rewards or additional exterior rewards that we don't need in order to feel that our actions match with our values, and hoping that at some point we will be rewarded extrinsically, which I did end up after several years getting pay for that because my boss did notice this and recognize it. But I could not, I wasn't able to guarantee that. I might not have ever gotten that. I might have just had to depend on what it gave me as a person and what I felt it would end up giving my students, which it was a process because now I feel sorry for the students who used it when I first finished it. It's never finished. But anyway, for me to really connect with this process and think it's important and matches my values, um, that was something I took into account. So I'm not telling y'all to think this way. This is for me. It's just one way of approaching a career and something for you to decide whether it works for you. What are your values? Because depending on what they are, your choice might be different from mine. So, something to think of. Artisan or careerist? Okay. I hope y'all will comment on this. See you.